Have you heard? Serving coffee in schools is all the buzz. We have our experts here, Trevor and Jay, to discuss Hubert's Coffee Kit and how it could be a great addition to your school's program.
Thanks for joining us on Coffee Talk today with Trevor and Jay at the Hubert Company and Hubert Education. And we wanted to talk a little bit about coffee and lattes in school today. So I've got my co-partner here, Jay Noel, and I'm Trevor Bentley, and we wanted to spend some time talking about coffee. So when I say coffee in schools, Jay, what does that think? What does that happen in your mind there?
Coffee in schools, basically one of the biggest questions we get is, why should we do coffee in schools, or concerns around caffeine and, we're going to have kids bouncing off the wall, things like that. There's lots of studies out there that prove to the contrary that caffeine. Good one.
I
think we made a new
We've had
word.
enough already, obviously.
This is my 8th cup. Caffeine in moderation can really be a benefit to students in helping increase focus and can increase their test scores and their learning as well.
You know what's interesting is as we visit schools, I know you do and I do, you stand by the front door and you can watch kid after kid after kid walking in with some giant fancy coffee drink that they've purchased somewhere, whether it be Starbucks or Dunkin' or whoever. And who knows how much they've paid for that, but I know usually my daughter can't leave Starbucks or Dunkin' or anywhere else for less than $6 or $7. So why not get some of that into your school program, right?
Absolutely, yeah. Bringing in that revenue, kind of capturing that revenue for your food service program is definitely beneficial, but at the same time, you're actually saving parents and students time and money. Instead of having to stop or drive out of the way to go to Starbucks or Dunkin' or Big B, anybody else, they're able to pick that up at school as well.
Well, I just wanted to let you know in advance, we are not sponsored by either of those two because this coffee is definitely not as good as theirs. So just to keep that in mind. But, when we talk about coffee and lattes in school, I hear a lot of kickback because it's, look, Trevor, we'd love to do something like that, but we just can't handle one more thing. We are so short-staffed, we're having a hard time just getting breakfast served. How do you recommend helping schools that say that?
Well, as we mentioned before, recapturing some of that revenue that's going to, those other coffee companies out there is a great way to do it. You're increasing revenues for the food service program. You're also increasing participation. I have a lot of food service directors out there that will basically get creative with it. They'll come up with bundles where they'll package coffee together with a breakfast. Say, for example, instead of buying a cup of coffee at $1.75, for $2.25 you get the coffee and the breakfast. So it's almost a no-brainer. At that point, you're increasing your overall participation.
So what would you say to those who struggle with labor? Are there solutions? Can they use students or anything like that?
Definitely. In high schools, we see a lot of schools addressing the labor issue by having students kind of help out, work the coffee shop or the coffee bar at the high school there to kind of help out with that staffing.
I know that some of that is a big issue, right? They talk about coffee and they're like, oh gosh, these kids are going to be hopped up, or what's the benefit of it? But being good for you and possibly adding some healthy value, it seems like it's a great idea. But what do you say to those schools that really struggle with going, I just can't even comprehend what I would need for that? Is there kits, programs, things like that?
There are. So we've put together at Hubert Education a number of different kits that basically take all the guesswork and the legwork out of having to start from scratch and say, what do I need to implement a new coffee program or a coffee bar? So we've got all of the products necessary, the cold brew machines, dispensers, carts, signage, graphics, everything needed to implement and basically,
Make it mobile?
Yeah, make it mobile and promote the program, I guess. All the components that you would need to make it successful.
So when you say a successful program, in my experience, I've done quite a few of these, you have some key factors. One, the drink has to taste good too, right? I mean, it's gotta be a good drink. It's gotta be attractive. Two, we just said making it mobile, getting it out of the cafeteria and possibly doing it in the hallway, that's a great option. But also I think there's a piece of marketing that might be missing. So, there's a lot of great ways to market your coffee program, whether using social media, whether putting some great signage in your hallways, hey, tomorrow is latte day, or making, I know it's coming, right? Somebody's got to have a pumpkin latte coming out here shortly, right? Doing things like that, because, these kids are consumers. They are not just kids anymore. Billions of dollars are spent on marketing to these generations. School programs can use some of those ideas and use their Facebook page or, things like that to really hype up their program, so to speak. No pun intended.
So you mentioned before, one of the concerns that directors or the schools will have is we don't have the staff to do it. We kind of addressed
Right.
that. The other big concern or roadblock that we encounter a lot of times is cost. So can you speak a little bit about the cost and what schools can do to kind of help out with that?
Yeah, one of the things is what's the investment, right? I've got to put some money up front for this investment. I can tell you with 100% certainty that the ROI on your investment is going to happen very fast. Coffee is a very cheap drink. You're already buying milk for your program. You might have an additional cost for some cups and things like that, but man, when you're able to get those out and you market it correctly, you provide a good drink, it's also Smart Snack and compliant, those things happen very quickly. Your ROI is quick, but that original investment scares people. But I can tell you with organizations we work with, whether it be your local dairy council or some other groups, they already have grants and even packages with equipment put together for you already. It might just be, required to provide some data back to them, but you're receiving everything you need, literally a turnkey opportunity to roll that out and put it into your school and start a program very quick. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, definitely.
So, what are some of the roadblocks that might come up? I'm just thinking in my mind, I'm a food service director that's new to a school and I want to start a coffee program. What are some of those things that I need to be aware of that may come up, and then maybe how to address those?
Well, we mentioned staffing as a concern. We cost sometimes up front. We've kind of addressed both of those as well.
What about parents? I'm sure there's some parents out there that say, oh no, we don't want our kids to have coffee. Mm-hmm. How do we get them on board? Is it just upfront communication?
Communication, just informing them of the benefits. As I mentioned before, moderate caffeine has been proven to increase students' focus. In addition to that, the full serving of milk has 13 important vitamins and nutrients in that to make it a healthy serving, as Smart Snack compliant from the USDA. So I think just the education alone, promoting that to the parents, can kind of help alleviate some of those concerns.
Boy, and I bet teachers love to have coffee in their school, right? And I'm sure they get a discounted rate just because they work there. But you know what? You can get these folks on board to help you out. Just thinking through what you were talking about, those vitamins and nutrients, those 13 that you really want to have. Kids typically stop drinking milk nowadays around 9 years old. And I can tell you that, already watching my 11 and 14-year-olds stop drinking milk long ago, I would love to see that happen. And, both of them love coffee, so why not mix those two together? And that way we're getting them back into those 13 vitamins and nutrients that they really need for growth and development. So, I know there's a lot of stress and anxiety about kids drinking coffee, but, I really think there's some benefit here. Would you agree?
Absolutely. There's great benefits, as we covered, nutritionally. You mentioned how students are drinking less and less milk at an earlier age. This is a great way to incorporate the healthy nutritional value of milk back into their diet. That's in a way that's on trend, that they're doing every day outside of school as well. So
Right.
It's kind of a win-win situation.
I would say to those directors out there that may be stressing about this, there is a great deal of resources out there. We joke around by saying just Google it. But, My team here at Hubert, we do nothing but work with directors, and we work with K through 12, and that's it. I mean, we have developed breakfast programs and fancy coffee programs, but really we're just here to answer questions and help you out. So, if this is something you're interested in, something you want to start in your school, you're just really not sure, let us hold your hand and walk through it. I mean, we're a free resource for you. We have done so many coffee programs out there that we can certainly help you. I am 100% certain we can. Jay, is there anything else to add to that?
Yeah, so we've got, as we've discussed, a lot of great material and products to help support and implement these coffee programs in schools. It's not always a one-size-fits-all approach, so we'll work with you to customize a solution that works best for you. With our new Cool Beans program that we're promoting, basically we're going to have great resources, products, recipes, and marketing materials, graphics, banners, things like that. Everything that you need to set up and implement a new coffee program at your school.
And you know what? There may be, if it's beneficial, we may put together not only recipes but videos on how to make your coffee. Right? Some people may be intimidated. They're not a barista. They may not even like coffee. So we want to provide everything you need in one resource, one place. To be able to implement those programs. So certainly check us out. We are so thankful you joined us today at Coffee Talk today, and have a great day and cool beans.